Hello EPQ students, just in case you missed it, I'm going to go through lecture 1, 2 and 3 from Bridging that we went through in Bridging. So if there's anything you're not sure of to do with EPQ, you wish you could go back to the lecture, you forgot how to make notes on it, you want to watch them. The third and final one is obviously the most key if you're not sure what to do next, what the next step of the process is, the summer task, and that will be in there. Okay, so just a quick reminder of a few things. They're all things you will have already done because you're receiving this email, because you showed how interested you were in EPQ. Just a reminder, it's half an A level. You'll have one lecture a week in the hopefully in the university centre. I think you've got it on your timetable, and 1 hour of class time where you meet in smaller groups. You've got the 4 one-to-one meetings. You've had the Bridging one. You're going to have the one in September about your planning documents. So you'll receive your Part B and your Part C. That's me saying that your project is approved, fully approved with changes, which is the most likely one, or rejected, which is very unlikely, but potentially might happen. If it does, we can have a conversation about that. That's fine. So in September, be ready to tell me about how you plan to complete your EPQ over the academic year. 1 in December, which is the midway point, so I check how you're doing, and then 1 in February as well, which is towards the end. However, do not think that they're the only times I will be chatting to you about your EPQ. In your 1 hour lectures, they're specifically designed, and I've requested to deliver them, so you can be working for that hour. However, I'll be coming round and speaking to you all consistently every week to get a feel about how you are progressing. Remember, it's the 90 hours of independent study. Make sure you pitch your project at that level, not 5 hours, not 500, the 90 hours. How much would 90 hours take? The 1 hour class time counts as 1 hour of that 90 hours. You should be doing 3 hours a week outside of class. That's 2 additional hours outside of class that you'll be completing work on your EPQ. Hopefully, because you love your EPQ, you'll do that dead easily without even thinking about it. You'll want to do even more. Okay? If you're thinking already, oh my goodness, 3 hours, that's ridiculous, I cannot be bothered to do that, you've got 2 things. Either think very carefully, is EPQ not going to fit into your timetable? Or a really easy fix, is it just the topic you're not interested in? Do you need to reflect and change and pick a different topic? If so, please get in touch with me. 50% report and artifact, 50% production log. Make sure both are good to get a high quality grade. Your presentation, which is a marketplace, just wandering around, there are boards up and tables. It is not a stand in front of people and give a lecture or a lesson type presentation. It's dead relaxed. Don't go back and change your documents. You can go back and add a little bit more detail, but do not go back and change anything. Like, you said you're going to use this title, you talked to me, you've decided to change your title. Talk about it in your modifications. Do not change it on any of your other paperwork. It cannot be something you've already studied or will study in the second year, so check the specifications and make sure you're not doing dual accreditation. They're the assessment objectives, and then this is the process. So you are waiting for your written feedback and you are starting your planning review. You've seen all of this paperwork already, so this is the level you want to be going at for your initial record of ideas. So I've seen that in everybody, and I've either been pleased with the amount of detail or I've asked you to include a little bit more. So maybe you want to pause the video, have a quick look, did you include that level of detail? There's some potential additional bits of information you want to include. Summary of comments from supervisor. So this is something you want to have a look at in the video. So I've given most people 3 or 4 comments. Some might have a few more, some might have a few less. It's not indicative of your project, it's just how many ideas I could think of on the day. Essentially on this project I've raised 4 things. I'm worried about it's too broad, the wording needs changing, it could be biased, and your primary research isn't well planned. This person's gone away and they've responded to each one in the modifications, and again, this is the level of detail that you want in your modifications in response to comments from supervisor. So she's explained the changes she's made and told me why she has changed them, made those changes. So I said it was too broad, so she said she went away and did some research, and this might be a good point to pause the video and read each one of these individually, and found that the most significant period was the Spanish colonization and the key natural disasters. She's also explained that they've experienced a huge amount of upheaval and allowed me to explore this in depth in areas of interest. So she said what she's picked, the Spanish colonization, and why huge amounts of upheaval allowed me to explore it in detail. She's mentioned political, socio and economic, and she's explained that the reason she's chosen the economic market is because the Philippines is currently a really emerging economic market, and she's keen to see the history of it to work out how it arrived at that point. So she's got to be able to explain in that level of detail. Okay, she went away and did some research about a subject-verb agreement and changed the structuring, and she's explained that. So she's going away and researching in response to my comments. I said I was worried about it being biased. So she went away and researched how to avoid bias in academic writing. So she's going to cross-reference any information from family members. This was particularly significant to hers with family members, and she included, in fact, any information that I find which is significant to everybody. Make sure you can check it against something else, and ensure that you reference clearly where all the information has come from. And she's also going to evaluate her sources. So in that short paragraph, she's mentioned absolutely loads of things that the examiners would love for EPQ, the markers would love. And then finally she's explained who she's going to contact, how she's going to contact them, and most importantly why she is doing it in this order. And that was in response to me saying her primary research wasn't well planned. So again, pause the video, have a read of the comments. The key reason I'm showing you this is because this is the level of detail that you need to get a good mark. And there you go. Do not change anything in your initial record of ideas. The mark scheme asks for clear evidence of change development with justification. Well, if you go back and change it, you can't show where you initially were and where you came, where you were and where you got to. So how on earth am I supposed to show evidence development? Make sure that you're really clear. So I think you can see a difference from your initial record of ideas, your part A, from your part A to your planning, and so on. I want to have seen you more moving forward each time. What to consider when writing a title. Lots of you have already done this, so you can skip over this if you need to. However, ensure that you're allowed to access the higher level skills. So it can't just be descriptive. How does the M25 work? It's got to be critical. So analysis, evaluation, compare and contrast, any of those. Which is a better transportation system and why the M25 or the Autobahn? So which is a better transportation system? You could just go M25 or Autobahn. However, you mention why and then you have to explain, well, the M25 is good for these reasons but not so good for these reasons. The Autobahn, however, is much better for the reasons the M25 wasn't so good at, but also has these problems as well. And then obviously the conclusion could be, well, the M25 is good for these reasons, so we could say it's a better transportation system. However, the Autobahn is better for these reasons, so you could describe it as that. You don't have to draw a full conclusion where you say categorically, there we go, that it's one or the other. Just explaining, you're just giving justifications in the conclusion. So if it's a question that you can't answer fully, that doesn't matter, as long as it's not too ridiculous. Don't make it too broad or use terms that are unquantifiable. Why is the justice system so ineffective? Justice system, explain that a bit more. Which part of the justice system, where in the world is it? So is it the UK, America? Is it sentencing? Is it something else? I don't know enough about the justice system. Your law students will. So be really specific. And also ineffective. What does that mean? It's unquantifiable. How are you defining ineffectiveness? What do you mean by ineffectiveness? Is it because sentencing laws are so discriminatory? Whatever it might be. Don't be biased. So why is Italy the best place to travel? Well, which country is the best place to travel in Europe and why would be better? So just avoid that one. Consider time period carefully. The history of modern literature. What does modern literature mean? So think carefully. For some of you, time period or identifying a section of time or something within your title will be important. Will it allow you to complete 90 hours of independent work? And most importantly, if you're completing an artifact, it cannot just be creating this, because then it would be, I did this, 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 this and this, and look what I made. You must explore the challenges or something about your artifact. Okay, so the challenges of creating an authentic 1920s flapper look. So you must make it really clear in your title specifically what it is that you are making, authentic 1920s flapper look. So I compare a picture of a 1920s flapper to your dress or whatever it is that you've made, and I'm able to evaluate it and say, yes, that does look like what you said it was going to look like. So be really specific in your title what you're making. So creating a marine environment which allows for the healthy development of Siamese fighting fish. So clearly you would talk about if they were making the bubble nest, which is a sign of healthy development, then none of these illnesses are happening. So how can you evaluate? How can you go, yes, I have achieved this? By the end, if you haven't, it doesn't matter if you're able to evaluate it. So you could say, no, I haven't achieved it for these reasons. In the future, I do this, this and this. Okay. Examiner's reports, avoid dual accreditation, so make sure that you're not saying you're going to do something on your EPQ which is studying on the spec. It was observed that some observers were offering too much direction so you couldn't show off your autonomous decision making, your independent decision making. So for example, they said use this wording in your title, read these sources, and marking drafts, which is considered malpractice. If we marked a draft, then all of our EPQ projects would be disallowed, and you would lose all of your marks. So we cannot mark drafts. So be careful how you write your comments from your supervisor and your modifications. Bear in mind, it's absolutely vital you can demonstrate your independent thought processes. You are the only one who records your summary of comments from supervisor. Make sure you do that in such a way that when you talk about in your modifications, it's very, very clear where your independent thought process was from. And you need to think carefully. We can only approve, previously this hasn't been the case, we can only approve it if it has a suitable working title. So it can't be too vague, it can't be too broad, it can't be descriptive, or it can't be speculative or opinion based. It's got to be a piece of research. It can't use immeasurable terms, and making it hard to draw meaningful conclusions. All those things we've already spoken about. Okay? And then we're going to have a quick, we don't need to look at your part A because you've done that. Let me get the next bit of paperwork up. So of course all of these slides aren't going to be relevant, so I will skip through some because you've completed your initial record of ideas in your part A. Perhaps just have a quick check to make sure you've done it. So in the second session of EPQ we discussed that reminders from last week, or also about 5 minutes ago, your production log and your artifact and report are equally as important. There was a direct, if you look at the quote just there's a direct correlation between the effectiveness of the production log, how good the production log was, and the quality of the outcome, i.e. your report or artifact. So make sure both are really, really good to get the good marks. Don't go back and change things. You must show development. Make sure it doesn't overlap, so no dual accreditation. Make sure your title isn't descriptive, and consider the wording of your summary of comments carefully. So they're the really key things that we discussed. You've done your initial record of ideas, you've met with your supervisor, you have also completed your part A, so you don't need to worry about that. You're just waiting for your written feedback, and you are starting to do your planning. So just make sure, have a quick look at these bits here. The key things, if you need to check anything and add anything to your part A, have you given specific sources? Have you explained specifically why you're using them? They're all well-established registered charities suggesting their data would be reliable and valid. They've named some books. Good introductory book that focuses on Freudian psychology, which suits my title. What and why? So what are you going to look at, and why are you looking at that? Why is it trustworthy? Why can we use it? If you've ever done history, and there'll be lots of other subjects as well, but obviously history and possibly English language are the key ones, consider your sources carefully already from the beginning. And then why are you interested in it? 5,000 word report, or what your artifact is in a 1,000 word report. And then oddly enough, this bit's the most important, so if you need to make this change, do go back and do it. A level here, qualification type. We sometimes get people doing BTECs or other qualifications. So this is A level, and then in this section it's AQA or whatever your exam board is. It might not be AQA, and then the subjects. I can only fit on 2, but there are the 3 or the 4. It's all the ones that you've studied. So just check you've got that. You've got one last chance to change that on your part A. Okay, and then exactly as we've had a look. So the direct correlation between both. Make sure both are really good. Make sure that you have done some preliminary research. We can't approve it if you haven't, and make sure that you've checked if you're going to contact doctors, medical workers, academics, anybody like that before the proposal stage. So it's almost a bit too late, but you could possibly get away with it now if you quickly changed your if your report part A isn't one of the first ones I look at, then you have an opportunity to change it quickly to make sure that information is forthcoming from your primary sources. So make sure you contact people, lecturers, academics, doctors, anything like that. And you must show you have a reliable research base, and that there was a big problem last year was very little to no detail in the My Intended Project section. Make it very, very detailed. I've just shown you how detailed we need it to be. So what you need to do from that is make sure you've conducted some initial research before you hand in your part A. Check that your primary resources are available. Make sure you evidence reliable search base. So show me links, names of books, explain why they are reliable. And then it says open brackets AO2 because you're already hitting assessment objective 2 there, evaluating of sources. And lots of detail in the My Intended Project section. I know you've all got it by now, but just in case you need to have a look, that's where you get your part A from. And then to give you a bit of a feel, we'll go through, and this is the bit where if you're struggling, this might be quite useful. So your assessment objective A, you've hopefully clearly identified your topic. So you've got a really clear title. You can change it up until December, but have as clear a title as you possibly can for this moment in time. The next thing we're going to have a look at, and it'll be what you'll be working on over the summer, is clear evidence of appropriate aims and objectives for the proposed project title. So this is where the aims that you will write. So this will be included in your planning review paperwork. So you don't need it in your Part A, don't panic, you don't need to go back, but it will be included in your planning review paperwork, which is handed in September. And then after that, no more paperwork until December. So you can actually get on with it. Well, you've got the summer to do it, but also after September, then up to December, you've got the business of actual EPQ work. So your aims are incredibly important for a variety of reasons. They help guide your planning. So planning is AO1. If you know what your aims are, I want to describe and evaluate this and this, this and this, then it will help with your planning. Clear evidence of appropriate aims and objectives for the proposed project title. So you must have appropriate aims and objectives to access the highest band in AO1. You also needed to monitor your progress against your agreed aims and objectives. How are you doing? You said you're going to describe and evaluate this in December. Have you described and evaluated it? And allows for evaluation and reflection. So you would, in AO4, in the final thing, you will ask, did you meet your aims? Most students I've seen, yes, I did meet my aims because I wrote a report. Not good enough. You need to reflect on each aim. Have you achieved them all fully? So having good aims by the end of the report, so we're talking already February, March, April time, you will go back and you'll reflect, did you meet them? I would go 3 to 4 being a good number with a mix of skills, which we'll talk about in a moment. 3 is the ideal. However, if you've got less, you've got more. As long as you're not making them ridiculously unnecessarily long and complex, then you should be absolutely fine. Or if you've got 1, that's a bit too much, too few, you need to balance it. And these can all be tweaked up until mid-December. However, good grounding now makes things easier. So you will have some lower level skills, and hopefully you recognise all of these from the exam questions, from lessons, all of those different things. This is called Bloom's taxonomy. So you want things like describe, and different terms will be slightly different in different subjects, and that's absolutely fine. Describe, explain, complete, list, examine. Some of those words are better than others, so stick with the ones that you're more confident with. Some of the lower level skills, and then some higher level. Compare, contrast, assess, evaluate, create, construct, plan, invent, compose. Big mix. So here are some examples, and there's hundreds in the next one, in the next PowerPoint as well. So to what extent is the treatment of Alzheimer's disease effective? She's described what Alzheimer's disease is and been specific biology and symptoms. So that's low level. Evaluate, high level. So evaluate current treatments and side effects, and then describe low level and evaluate high level possible future treatments and potential associated issues. So she's described, evaluate, describe, evaluate. How can the transmission of common pathogens within a hospital environment be reduced? So she's described the different pathogens, and again she's been very specific, definitions and symptoms. Then she's described and evaluate each pathogen's current treatment. So described it, this is how they treat it, evaluated it's good for this, this is an effective treatment for these reasons, it's not so great for these reasons. And then she's created suggestions of how to reduce the transmission of each pathogen in hospital. And then this one here is scientific development of nail polish. So you describe the method and compare and evaluate the scientific method based on cost effectiveness and accuracy. Okay, and there will be some more in a moment of those examples. The next thing you're going to look at is, and I've broken it down for you, a detailed project plan. So you've written your aims, you're going to do that over the summer. A detailed project plan with clear evidence of monitoring progress against agreed objectives. So your project plan needs to be able to do 2 things. Shows you what you're planning to do, so you know what you're planning to do, but it also allows you every week to go back and monitor your progress. Are you meeting your what you said you would do during those weeks? Okay. So common features of production logs that resulted in little evidence to support AO1 marks were, so the things we've just spoken about, common problems with those production logs. The planning was time-based only. In September I'll do this, in December I'll do this, and that was it. That's not good enough, so just be ever so careful with your planning. There's little or no recorded monitoring, so it wasn't clear that you knew. If I said to you in December, where are you? It wasn't clear from your planning that you knew where you were. So you might have done a brilliant plan, but you haven't carefully monitored. Yes, I'm here, I've still got this to do, I've done this, I'm this far behind, or I'm this far ahead. And then planning of the research being considered before, planning of the report being considered before research had been completed. So, in response to that, consider more than just when for your timings, but also how and why, and that will be shown in your planning review. So you don't need to worry too much about in your planning document itself, but in your planning review, how and why. How will you track where you are, what you've completed and what you have left to complete? I've got some examples of that, so you must be able to track that. So if I stopped you anywhere in college in February, you'd be able to say, I'm here, I've completed this, I've got this left to do, I wanted to be here, but actually I'm a bit ahead or I'm a bit behind. And then, have you done some research before starting the planning? So the way it would go, write your aims, do some research, create your planning document, do your planning review. Okay, so make sure you've done research. It's very obvious that you haven't. Remember, if you're struggling over the summer, I've got that research to do for EPQ, you've picked the wrong topic. Get in touch with me, think again. You want to be drawn, you want to be thinking, I've got all these other things to do, but I just can't stop researching the EPQ, because you should be so interested in that. Two different planning styles, and if you can think of a third one, use that one, however you want to do it. On the left hand side, they do all the research, say up to December, and then they start the writing from January onwards. Or the other way around, you might want to research one aim, do the writing, research another aim, do the writing. And I think the second way is so much better. It avoids that horrible blank page feeling, or that huge massive research that you've done and then you've not kind of started on you've not got anything written on the page yet. Whereas you can do it in bite-sized chunks. Do a bit of research, do a bit of writing, do a bit of research, do a bit of writing, and that avoids that horrible last-minute rush of writing 5,000 words in one night, which I know that you're all keen to avoid and would never ever do. Most students did go the other way, all the research and then all the writing. A lot of them did moved over to the research one aim, write one aim. A couple have moved the other way and decided to do all the research and then all the writing. They also added in review weeks, so every now and again don't plan to do a specific thing, but just anything in particular, just review your progress and catch up, essentially, so some catch-up weeks. Okay. So you've planned what you're going to do. December you're going to do this, November you're going to do this, whatever. Now you need to decide how you're going to track your deadlines, and these are some examples of possible planning documents. I'm not going to go through them. You can pause the video, you can have a look at them, but as you can see here, you've got the week, the task, when it was to be completed, did you achieve it, any additional notes, and then a key thing, the aim that it links to there as well, to show that you're monitoring your progress. A Gantt chart might also work, and you've got another example here. So again, pause the video and have a look at these, and then this one, which was really nice, which was all the words she wanted to be at, which was this line here, and then the words that she was working at, so she could see visually whether she was on target. And most of the time, apart from a bit of a dip and then a quick lot of writing, she was very much on target, which was good. Deadlines to factor in. Every single student I spoke to in EPQ, and I know some of you have 3 coursework subjects and EPQ, so you need to do this very carefully. All were shocked by coursework and how much of an impact it had on EPQ. So, factor this in. You can talk about these courseworks and plan them in to your deadlines. So your presentation date is roughly the week commencing the 1st of April, and your final hand-in date is the 24th of April. You've now got all of those. Your supervisor meeting, the planning review, will be the week commencing the 17th of October. The mid-project, where you want to be in the middle of your project, will be the 3rd of December, and your project review will be week commencing the 11th of March. Make sure they're in your planning somewhere. The coursework deadlines, you've got the history coursework deadlines, film media, English lit and language, and the geography ones are on another PowerPoint slide. Pause the video, make a note of any of these that you need to. You are not going to get, if you do history, you are not going to get anything done the last 2 weeks of November, because you'll be doing your draft. So don't plan in anything for EPQ in the last 2 weeks of November, or plan something very easy to do, and then afterwards, after the 3rd, you can pick it up in December. But then of course, working towards the middle of January again, you're not going to have time to do anything. So think carefully. You can work in chunks and ebbs and flows of EPQ around your coursework. If you talk about it, that's good mark, lots of marks acquired. Okay. And then finally, session 3, which is the one that's, again, I'll go through some additional information. I'll go through again, hundreds of examples on here, and hopefully by the end of it, it should be clear what you need to do over the summer. If you're not clear, then get in touch with me. So again, I think we're going to recap what we just looked at. So recap from 5 minutes ago. Remember that it's all equally as important. There's the correlation between the two. Don't go back and change things. Mistakes are good. You can demonstrate problem solving. So as well as not changing things because you think, oh, I should have known that straight from the start, you also don't hide mistakes. If something goes wrong, talk about it. Tell me why it's gone wrong. Tell me why you've solved it. That is brilliant. That is much better and much higher marks than somebody that doesn't encounter any problems at all. So please do not hide from mistakes. Remember that they are good and include them in your paperwork. Consider the wording of your summary of comments. So again, make sure you can show autonomous decision making. Supervisors are only EPQ advisors, so please don't think we're being awkward. If I'm not giving you much information about English Lit or language, that's for two reasons. One, because AQA say that I can't, and it would severely influence your grade if I did. Secondly, more importantly, I haven't got a clue what I'm talking about, so I would probably negatively impact your report. So please, we are there, and I will help you as much as I can with the requirements of EPQ. I can't with the subject, so I can't advise you on the title other than go away and do some more research. I can give you some guidance when you've written it on does it meet the higher level grades, sort of the high level skills, but I can't tell you what to read or what to include. Make sure you've got 3-ish roughly aims with a mix of high and low level skills. You'll need a detailed project plan and a clear evidence of monitoring progress. So, your summer tasks: write your aims, decide which structure of planning you'll be doing, or the research or the writing. Research aim 1, write aim on, doesn't matter which way around you do it. Create a detailed plan, check that it allows you to monitor your progress, write your planning review, start conducting research, store your sources as you go. That is a tick list. Tick every one of those off, and a lot of them you can tick off very quickly. Your aims 15 minutes, structuring of planning 5 minutes, detailed project plan might take a bit longer, but once it's done, it's done. Monitoring your progress, those two are combined. Write your planning review, again probably a day or two if you want to refer, and then of course conducting your research will take up all the time and is hopefully the thing you really want to do. These are some examples. I'm not going to go over them. However, if you want to pause the video and have a look at them, then you can do. Describe, evaluate. Low level, high level, and look how detailed they are. Describe, analyse, suggest improvements, construct, describe, create. Define, analyse, draw conclusions. There you go. So there's some examples. And again, these are some examples of planning and monitoring. So the green is when you've completed it, the yellow when it's in progress, and the red when it starts. So if you want to Google GANTT, GANTT, and tracking progress, then this comes up. Just get it as a template and you can use that. That's another example. Third example, I've done this Ninja, so you can use an app. I've had people screenshot things before and that's fine. This is a habit tracker. You can put a cross on it. You could have a diary with everything written and you can cross out when you've done it. A to-do list, progress tracker, any of those things. Again, go back and have a look at those. The 3 key questions for your planning document: does it show you planning? Can it track how you're doing? Can it track how you're doing against what I said I was going to do? And stuff from PowerPoint 2 had a really good example of that. Okay, and then this is where you get your planning review for Google Docs from. Moodle EPQ Year 1 Preparations Lecture 3 Planning Review for Google Docs. Copy and paste it into your Google Docs. Okay, and it's going to be, so this is your planning review you've done after your planning document. 4 to 5 paragraphs roughly, and you'll start: over the summer I will, in September I will, in October I will, in November I will, and in December I will. So this always starts roughly the same. The wording can change, but basically you want to be breaking it down roughly into chunks of time, and then each paragraph will be structured: what I want to do, by when, what resources I will use, and explain not only what you're going to do, but why you are going to do it. And as you can see, what and when is D, what resources is B to C, and explain why is B A star. Okay, and then why is it structured this way? Common features of production logs that don't support high-level AO1 skills are planning that was time-based and little or no recorded monitoring. This way you are showing much more detail and thought process, and you are moving out of the lower marks. So for every paragraph: in September I'll do this, what is it going to do, when you're going to do it, what resources will you use, and explain why you are doing them. And here is an incredibly detailed example, and I will try and remember to attach this to the email as well. This is it broken down further, and the reason I've put it into colour codes: when, what, how, why, and also your response to part B and part C that I'll send to you as well. So if you've got a nice mixture of all of these with a big focus on the green and the blue, then that is ideal for each different paragraph. So do pause the video, have a look at each one of these, read them carefully, and ensure that your planning review has this level of detail. Look there, why, there's loads of detail in why there. Okay, and the same with December. Okay, Harvard referencing, which is what you're going to do in your EPQ, and some of you might have done footnotes before, is every time that you, and this isn't something there it says don't panic, you don't need to do this yet. I'm explaining, hopefully I'll explain this and it'll become clear why you're doing it. So eventually this is all, you will include this somewhere in your report, where you got the information from, and these are the key things that you need, and this is the same for a website, okay, and it's called Harvard referencing if you want to Google it and have a look at it. All I would say, don't worry about that beyond knowing that at some point if you quote or even refer to, it doesn't have to be a quote, some information from a book or a website, these are the bits of information that you need, okay? I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you store your sources. Having read the EPQs, having talked to the EPQ students, they said the best way to, the easiest way to start writing was by having really nicely, clearly organised sources. So, and there's a Word document on there with Moodle. On Moodle, this is a suggested way. It's not essential. You can do it any way that you want to. So I've got it source storage books, and then I've allocated aim 1, so all the books relevant to aim 1 I'll put there, aim 2 all the books, the detail that I read, so you've got all of that's relevant to the reference you're going to do, quotes, pages, in additional notes. This source is good for these reasons, I'm going to use this quote, whatever you're going to use. This is just for you, so it doesn't need to be really, really detailed. It needs to work for you. You don't hand it in with your production log unless you put an example, a small section of the example in the appendix, okay? And then you could also use Cite This for me, and again have a look at that, and that'll show you a bit more detail. You copy and paste the link in and it gives you the information. And these are 100 different examples of source stories. So data access, link, references, did you use it, the related aims, any of that stuff. So have a look at these and get a feel for if there's any of those particularly that you would like to use. So all much for muchness, but at the same time you can make it as flexible as you want for you, and you can do it in any way. It doesn't have to be a Word document, it can be written, it can be on an app, however technological, however simple you want to make it work for you. So over the summer, just to confirm again, write your aims, create a planning document, so a Word document, a Gantt chart, whatever it is that you want to do. Write your planning review, which is on Moodle, so that's a piece of production log paperwork. Create source storage document, keep it simple, and then start your research and put your research into your source storage document. Okay. Any questions? I'll go back on there in case you need to check it. Any questions, please do email me and let me know. However, otherwise, to your first session with me in EPQ, I will ask for your aims, I will ask for your planning document, I will arrange a one-to-one with you, and I will ask to have a look at your source storage document. Make sure you've completed them all, make sure you have them all available. Okay, thank you very much.